So Ian, we've talked a lot about ways in which we might reduce the polluting effects of aircraft this afternoon. The other possibility, of course, is that people simply fly less. But we know that people enjoy the kind of things they can do when they get to the destination. There are some people who enjoy flying, but most people enjoy the fact they can get somewhere else relatively quickly, and they go either for business or for leisure. Should we think first of all about the business travel and whether there are virtual alternatives to business travel and how that might develop over the next few years?
Yes, and I think that the remote robot is a great possibility. So we see this, for instance, in medicine, where a specialist surgeon in one part of the world can direct the robotic operation in another part of the world and effectively conduct that operation. Obviously, they need around them the anaesthetists and all the other hospital services to look after that patient and make sure the patient's in the right condition in the right place.
Yeah.
But the manipulator giving haptic feedback to the surgeon, having the tray of instruments there for them, that they can do that. Taking that a step further, that you might have a pair of businessmen whose robots meet remotely. You have that haptic feedback of the handshake. Effectively, the robots are looking at each other, but it's a bit like your video conference, but with the ability that if you wanted to pat someone on the back, you can. If you want to shake their hand, you can. If you want to do a simulated bow, you can. And it will be quite interesting to see how that works.
Yeah.
I know that some engineering companies have done the same thing in terms of having their specialist engineer view and in some cases disassemble an engine when it comes in for service.
Right.
So that if there is a particular problem, they can have a look at it. They've immediately got sight, for instance, of a fracture surface. They can perhaps send that off for analysis, but without traveling.
Right.
Because if your specialist engineer is asked to travel, you know, it
cost goes up dramatically.
Could be 12 to 24 hours before they arrive.
Yeah.
Whereas this method gives you an answer straight away.
Yeah.
And if they end up saying, yes, you know, I've looked at this and yes, I need to come out and travel, at least you can then manage the customer's expectations and say, this service is going to take a little bit longer because we can't manage it remotely.
Yeah.
But I think there is much more of that, so that you can always select the best person for the job.
From anywhere in the world.
That's right. So and basically, if somebody has got a good broadband connection and the right equipment at home or even on holiday,
they can just operate and do it.
They can do it.
So how does that wash over, Ian, into leisure travel? Do you think people are going to start to have leisure holidays and the travel experience without leaving home?
It already happens. I think that it will get a stage further, and I think there's an opportunity for a number of businesses to start up on this. So if you've ever visited the Jorvik experience in York, you travel through medieval Britain, you enjoy the smells and the sounds. It's taken you back in time. But it doesn't need to take you back in time. It could equally well take you to Jamaica and the smell of cooking on the beach, the sounds of the sizzling barbecue, the heat lamps giving you the sun. Or you could even go a step further and use some of the virtual reality technology. So you could wear that virtual reality headset
Yep.
You could walk the Inca Way. You could step down and smell some of the flowers. You can look at the views. You can decide whether you're walking during the night, during the day, and all without Montezuma's revenge.
Yeah.
And
I can see the attraction of that.
and the blessed insects.
Yeah.
And in these days as well, without the 2 weeks quarantine when you get back from COVID.
Yeah.
So that's why I can see that there's huge opportunity here for someone to develop a business around this and get people to feel that they've had an experience. And when you look at some of the structural suits that we use in engineering, so if you go into some of the motor manufacturing plants, there is some of the operatives will wear a suit that helps them lift things which are way, way beyond what they would otherwise be able to lift.
Right.
So you can lift an engine into a car, for instance, with this cobotic type suit.
Yeah, that's impressive, isn't it?
It is. But what that also means is that if you, for instance, are in a wheelchair and you are given one of these suits and a VR headset, you could feel that you are climbing the Old Man of Hoy, seeing the views, and experiencing it. And you thought never in a month of Sundays would you get out of that wheelchair and up the Old Man of Hoy. So here is an opportunity, not just for most of us who like to go on these adventures around the world, but people who thought those adventures were no longer able, they were able to access. It opens that up for them as well.
No, that's fascinating. Well, you've given us all a lot to think about this afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. I suspect that in a month or so, I'm going to be coming back to you to check out some other ideas which seem to me to be crazy, which you will probably suggest are perfectly feasible if enough work goes into them. I think the thing that's most disturbed me this afternoon is to discover that we no longer make all engineers do system engineering courses, which does seem to me to be rather an oversight. Thank you very much indeed, Ian. Really appreciate your time.
That's all right. Yeah.
Thank you.